Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're here. We're into a game number 3. After RNG finally fought back in that second one. We were close. We were close to ending it at 2-0 here, Lyric. We were close to just calling it a night. But RNG, you know, they brought themselves back to life. And we saw Double Elder into the end. Finally. Some good play out of it. Okay, not finally some good play, but we finally saw them end it. I don't know how to phrase this. The Baron steal came through from FPX that maybe shouldn't have come through.
Yeah, still though, on the opposite side, RNG in the first like 20 minutes of the game, super solid. We were focused on a lot of the flashy plays. Shanghaı like flashing over the wall early game to go bot lane. Hung continuously flashing in, kind of dying. But Wei was the standout player who enabled a lot of this to happen. He is going to be our man of the Rift for Game 2. When Wei has an impact on the map, it just feels like RNG can completely take over in early game.
Well, there you go. First MVP here for RNG goes to the jungler. And it's suiting, right? Like, Wei's someone who you don't talk about as much because people like Gala on the Rift, Ming's there, Shanghaı as well with his last split. But Wei was so on point for this game, Lyric, and was the reason that bot got so far ahead due to the very smart pathing.
Yeah, I mean, just going straight bot from his first camp, and then here, like we said, just continuously going bot, making sure LWX and Hung aren't getting any gold or experience, making sure that Gala had that massive, I think it was two and a half item advantage that he did by the time the game was over. And like you said, more of a silent enabler is what Wei is. He's like that strong pillar supporting the house that you don't take time to look at your house and be like, man, my house is so nice. It's all thanks to that foundation underneath. That's Wei.
You just know that the foundation's going to keep you up. I get it. You know, you don't have to appreciate it without appreciating it naturally, right? Because you're in the house. I understand what you're talking about. Coming into today, there was a big focus from RNG on the solo laners, and it's kind of interesting that, you know, throughout both of our games now, we've talked a lot about the bottom lane. We've talked a lot about Wei. I think as well, you know, in that first game, we talked Shanghaı versus Gory, which has been lane dominance. In that second game as well, you know, Gory held up better, Lyric, but we still saw that he was getting blasted a little bit. There was a lot of Zoe mechanisms being used in that game too. And it's interesting to me that the other person we've been talking about, like in Bin, hasn't had jungle attention all that much, has he? It's been very quiet up there.
Yeah, Bin kind of being left on his own, and now as we're going into ban pick, we can see what they want to do from this time around.
Ooh, swap sides.
Teams are swapping sides, which is super cool. So same bans coming out so far, at least. RNG still taking Diana and Renekton off the table. FPX have banned the Twisted Fate in both games. This time around, going to change it, take away the Xin Zhao. So Wei at least going to be forced to show something else. We do still have things like Jarvan available, which if you remember, Wei was forcing Jarvan bans at things like Worlds. We still have the Lee Sin on the table. Viego's obviously been a standout. So jungle pool wide open. 80 carries going to be different this time around with RNG being the one to take away the Caitlyn though.
But Lyric, I'm curious because Gala's a great jinx, and we know he loves that hyper carry. Things like Kaiser as well. Not going to be that first pick. So let's see what FPX ban away. 5 more seconds. They're really holding out on us. But Jinx has been first pick worthy today. It's LeBlanc in the first rotation anyway. So you mentioned the 80 carry pool. You also gave us a good pick at the litter for junglers. Let's see what RNG prioritize more.
I'd be a bit surprised you don't just end up
None of the above.
Yourself. Seems like maybe they're fine with either side of the Aphelios Jinx matchup because both are still left open. Thresh going to give either one of those champions mobility to be able to get more done inside of team fights. And now for FPX, it's where do you go with the answer? Assuming they do go for the preferred side of that hyper carry matchup, probably would lock in the Jinx, you'd assume. Going with an Enchanter support does sound like something that can work. Yep. Are going to be very careful in terms of laning phase. You can win out in terms of, you know, poking them down with your range advantage as long as you don't get hit by something like a hook. You're fine. You always do have the polymorph there available for any follow-up that Thresh and his 80 carry do have.
So you're telling me we need to partner this with a carry 80 carry, of course, immediately before it gets taken away, and the Aphelios is there. Jarvan, you're also mentioned here in the jungle, Lyric, and look, we know there's 180 carry that's still up and available that Gala also plays. It would make sense, right?
It just has to be this. You know, it's kind of funny that this is the first day of, like, competitive split, and the meta, even now, is decently telegraphed. I think in terms of soul lanes, we are seeing more flexibility than Not than we expected, but are seeing more flexibility. Now for the side of FPX, we've hit on the trifecta of junglers that you should expect to see here in the LPL. Lee Sin is going to be locked in. So pretty stock and standard so far. We've hit on how FPX having that enchanter in the bot lane do have some windows to play around. Will be stronger later on, but Thresh Jarvan, I think, bringing more of a potent 3v3 and definitely more setup.
Okay, more setup than I guess we've been used to as well. Way on his Jarvan, something that has been historic, just like the Xin Zhao, so sits nicely. While on the other side, let's continue that conversation about solo lanes, because you talked about flexibility in solo lanes. Shanghae Zoe from last game has been banned away, but we've already seen things like, we've seen Victor, we've seen Corki, we've seen the Zoe talked about, we've seen GP, Jace. You know, we can keep going, Lyric. Like, there's been a lot that has shown up today. Jax, Gwen, things like Camille bans as well. I feel like we could go in any direction for these top and mid laners.
Yeah, I'm most curious to see what Gory ends up on, right? Because we've hit on that Gory has kind of been this Orianna Victor guy, at least in his stint in Demacia Cup. When he was back in the LCK, he was playing things like the Akali. He was having standout clips on LeBlanc. I was talking to Atlas, and his big hype play was on a champion like Yasuo. So maybe he does have things with more agency in his belt, but we at least haven't seen it in his short time on FPX, which is actually a lot of game data since they did get the finals in Demacia.
That's true. I mean, we got a big look at him, and so far, as you mentioned, Demacia and what we've seen in this region, it has been those pretty stable picks. So far, the Cannon's going to be banned out against Shanghae. Let's see if there's a mid-targeted ban, because there's been a couple on the side of FPX, and no, they're just going to get rid of the Jax. What's this telling you, Lyric? What do you want to see?
Maybe trying to threaten a potential Gwen pick coming out, or trying to push FPX into picking top lane early.
Okay.
Corki, so they are going to go with another one of those standard kind of scaling picks, are going with the Corki because he does also bring some mobility, so you don't have to fear, you know, potentially things like the Jarvan or the death sentence as much as you would had you opted into something like a Victor or an Orianna. And now for the side of RNG, I mean, we've seen the Syndra hovered over quite a few times. This was the pick that Shanghae was known for when he came into the LPL. We hit on the Gwen, they banned the Jax. Seemed like they were either pushing FPX towards it or saying, hey, if you don't pick it yourself, we are just going to go with it. What champion can you bring to counter now that this Jax is off the table?
And you've already mentioned the Syndra. They come back to it. They lock it in here, Lyric. So against the Corki, finding the lane for Shanghae, and for the Gwen, what's it going to go up against? Because at this point, we know that Corki's going to be towards the mid lane. Jace, Graves, other picks we've seen in the top lane here today. Let's see what Shanghae is confident taking into bin.
Yeah, I would expect maybe just for the Jace to come out. You are still range, so, you know, sure, you aren't going to like necessarily dominate here in the matchup, but can try and get an early CS advantage, win out through that way. You have the Lulu to buff up your double hyper carry in Corki and Aphelios. You do have a lot of range to play with, to where for the side of RNG, sure, you have the Jinx, but I think you're a lot more committal in terms of the Jarvan, the Thresh, especially things like the Syndra as well. So for RNG, I think they're going to be the want to be the ones to get up in FPX's face, to FPX kind of going back to game one, where it's like, hey, as long as Beitron can kind of match what Wei's doing in the early game, prevent a lot of these ganks from happening, hover over where you expect Wei to put his focus, which I think at a glance is definitely mid lane. Jarvan and Syndra definitely a superior 2v2 as compared to Corki and Lee Sin.
Which matches to what we've seen, you know, so far in this series. There has been a bit of attention played towards Shanghae. Like, that's what Wei did when Shanghae was up in the top lane. It's good to see that translates as well when Shanghae's back towards his original role. Seeing that set up in the mid lane, Lyric, I'll keep my eyes out for it. And watching how Beitron can kind of counter flow and get the ball rolling himself, because in this final game, RNG versus FPX, it's delivered so far in the series. But once again, we've changed things up ever so slightly. Gwen versus Jason in the top lane is Syndra versus Corki, guys. Don't get too excited, you know. I know Corki can make you a little bit sad, but I'm hoping finally one day, if not today, we'll see that AP build, Lyric. We'll see. Hyper carries in the bottom lane, of course. And as we go on to Summoner's Rift, sir, you're going to tell me once again what you think about these compositions and what you think about RNG kind of returning to, I guess, like a comp that can rely on someone like Gala, Ming as well on the Thresh. Big comfort picks that are great for team fighting, and we know that RNG love their team fighting.
I think comps like this suit RNG a lot more than anything else. And just the defining factors being the Jarvan and the Syndra. Like I said, I love seeing Shanghaı on champions that are able to get their own priority, can move with jungle, impact the map. That's always what he did when he was on RNG as a mid laner back in the day with Uzi. And I think it is just where he is most comfortable. And I've always thought Shanghaı, in terms of laning phase, was always good. Always upper echelon of the LPL, CS advantages, high in solo kills, you know, all those good juicy stats to go along with it. So RNG, again, we're looking at mid jungle. I would expect, just from how the series has gone so far, you're probably going to look at how it pivots into bot. Typically, also, when you have things like Thresh, right, CC tankier support's better in early skirmishes compared to things like Enchanters. But Ming actually taking the Predator, so showing he actually wants to be the one to move, influence the map. Maybe we see some pressure up towards top side this time around, potentially coming out from the side of RNG.
Or even translating more towards mid. You already talked about it with jungle, as Ming's actually going to be walking in here, but that means a Flay on top of Hung. Ignites down. Ming's in trouble with PTA, but so is Hung, because Lethal Tempo's been hit. It's a flash away immediately. Ming held onto his. Hung has burned both summoners. And speaking of Lethal Tempo, I mean, Bin doing the same up in this top lane on the Gwen. A big start for the RNG bottom lane, and something that FPX initiated.
Yeah, so nice turn coming back from RG's bottom lane, but let's hit on the Lethal Tempo on the Gwen real quick, because you still do more commonly see Conqueror taken. It synergizes with your kit better, the damage you're going to be able to get from it. Lethal Tempo just does give you a stronger laning phase than Conqueror will, especially being able to get the bonus range once you do get the full stacks of Lethal Tempo is quite nice. So been trying to get more out of his laning phase with this rune than, again, something like a Conqueror. So might even play more into what RNG are going to be trying to do, but already seeing Wei path towards his bot side. Beichuan should be able to get out of here, so Wei was spotted.
He's going to get the full healing from the Gromp as well. He's got to level up. So even going past the blue buff, there's a jungle advantage if Beichuan wants to turn around as, hey, Gory's getting zoned out of lane again, Lyric, and I know that this lane is hard for a Corki, but Shanghaı once again showing us why he needs to be respected.
Yeah, and even on the side of Gory, right? I don't want to harp on Gory's laning phase too much for the fact that Gory wasn't really known as some kind of god-tier laner over in the LCK from the people I talked to. It was much more about these team fights and how he impacted the map later on and having these highlight reels, team fights. But, ooh, Gory might just be dead.
Well, he's flashed away. Good Valkyrie, but Shanghaı takes the turret aggro and it's first blood over to Wei. Simply done for RNG.
We said the name of the game for RNG would be mid-jungle. Shanghaı setting it up quite nicely. Wei just wrapping around Beichuan with no real time to respond. And yeah, did Wei steal his blue buff as well, or
I believe
did Beichuan get his own?
Well, I believe he did, or at least for Wei, he was up towards that area. Now he's in the bottom side, Lyric. You're gonna have to find that out for me, because Beichuan's on the other side of the map. He will not be able to help his bottom laners. LWX and Hung have to be careful. Ming still has his flash available. Hung does not. It's a summonerless Lulu that we saw before, and looks like he's going to back away. So, Lyric, replay again. You talked about mid being hit, and Gory was hit.
Yeah, and like you said, Shanghaı just setting this up nicely, dominating the matchup really more than it should be. Wei not even needing to hit the knockup. Gory getting the flash out, but they have enough of an HP advantage. They are still able to follow through with the dive. We did also find out from that replay that it did look like Wei stole away the blue buff, so cool to get confirmation on that. Beichuan has been farming in the meantime, at least taking away camps. Ooh.
Well,
you know, he gets away.
Yeah.
I take that.
Okay, well, burning the flash, but yeah, you're right, surviving, being able to go back towards his Krugs anyway. So the flash was just a quick return to his side of the map. Definitely going to be worth.
Oh, no. Look at mid hysterics. Look at the mini map.
Is it happening again? Oh, it's schoolyard bullying once again. Scout of the Week's going to hit too. There's a flag and drag. Wei's only level 3. He uses his own flash and he's out. Lyric, Gory 0-2 at 4 minutes in the game.
You know, I feel like we've seen this game today. It just happened in the top lane, and it was called OMG versus TT Game 2.
Yeah, it was. And New didn't have a great time. Guys, if you missed that game, that Gangplank was 1-8 by the end, and it was not pleasant to watch whatsoever. Well, it was pleasant to watch from OMG's perspective, but still, Gory's getting similar treatment, and Lyric, he's 40 to 20 CS in this mid lane. Just picked up a tier, and Gory's had to use his TP. He's summonerless, so is Shanghaı, but Shanghaü at least has a Dark Seal, and that's starting to stack up. There is a pickaxe Jarvan this early on, and
Oh,
he's
no
coming
flash.
towards the bottom lane. There's a flag and drag. It doesn't hit anyone, but LWX burns his flash. The hook, shallow. If only just the ignite down. This actually turning around. The Chompers a bit shallow as well. And RNG are going to be backing away. Way being really active here, Lyric. This is a big early game.
Yeah, Wei just trying to impact the map. He is on Jarvan, right? This is your bread and butter. It's all about ganking lanes early. You don't really scale into the late game. You're always just going to be a knockup bot or looking for, you know, big cataclysms. Still, though, for the side of FPX, you lost a flash, but you also got a flash, ignite, and heal on the opposite side. So, nice play coming out from LWX and Hung. I still feel like the biggest problem in this game is clearly going to be mid. Shanghaı will be allowed to do whatever he wants. For RNG, they can pretty much keep vision on either objective just from Shanghaë's advantage alone.
But look at this bottom line. Let's shift gears a little bit. It's actually really good for LWX and Hung at the moment. Ming low. And Hung has been poking them down. Okay, maybe you can't shift gears when Shanghaë is dominating this hard. Gory's being proxied in a mid lane turret, and Shanghaë has ulti Lyric. So at this point, do you call police? Do you just shout? Like, what do you... Does Beitwan just need to sit mid for the rest of the game?
Yeah, it seems like first of all we need to try and get some defensive vision down, right? If we can start getting some control wards on the map, getting them into our side of the jungle, so Wei can't keep looking to wrap around and make those sorts of plays. Sure, I guess he theoretically could just walk through lane and you can keep trying to zone Gory off, but at least that gives time for Beitwan to respond, and you already see your bot lane doing a solid job down in the 2v2. Your Jace is fine up in top side, so you're kind of just slowly stalling out the game through that way. Sure, Shanghaë will continue to be able to chunk down turret plates mid, but at this point you really can't stop that. You can just try and allow your other two lanes to be uninterrupted by Wei's influence.
Yeah, that feels like that's going to have to be the goal, because if it continues like this, at least Shanghaë will have a bit of a lead here on the Jace, and you can see LWX the same down there, Lyric. He's got Berserker Greaves now with double longsword and dagger, being matched apart from the dagger by Gala. But of course it is the extra bit of turret plating that's been taken. Speaking of which, Shanghaë going to do the same here in mid, and you know what? RNG have hit this comp so far to a T. 2-0 start, a 1k gold lead. You said that it revolved around this early game where Shanghaë and Wei could sync up and Wei could hit that Syndra in the mid lane. They've done that perfectly. Shanghaë having a great time so far. And it feels like because of that, Wei's just being able to have free roam and get whatever he wants, and objectives seem pretty scary if you're FPX at this point.
Yeah, I think for RNG, this should be them able to get a free Herald. I don't think you even need to necessarily rotate your bot up as long as your bot is posturing and pseudo-matching what FPX's bot lane is doing. RNG's top side definitely stronger right now. Package is available for Gory, though, but I would be quite scared of Wei and Shanghaë, who both do have... I mean, we have Phage coming out on Wei over just a longsword for Beitwan, right? And Shanghaë sitting on double amp tome with source boots. I feel like the side of RNG is too strong right now for Beitwan. I like what he's doing, cross down towards bot, get some wards down, keep enabling your Aphelios Lulu to be able to push in this lane, and maybe zone them off, find opportunities to pivot into a dragon, and do these other objectives.
I mean, Gory doing a good job of just going between fog and war right now. You can see Shanghaë moves back to lane, and Gory has to pay the respect there. But Gala and Ming, speaking of respect, doing the exact same thing. Pulling back in the wave, knowing that there's nothing down in this bottom side that's on vision. And FPX going to be picking up the dragon you also mentioned. So Gory with this package seems like he's just going to keep playing in the shadows here as Chemtech Dragon goes down, Lyric. And Wei and Shanghaë continue to be a bit of a duo. See if they can pick anything off the back of the play.
Yeah, making their way down. No
they get there
W landing from Gala.
Predator. Hang on, Lyric. I forgot. It's a Predator Thresh. LWX goes melee range. He wants something. But in the end, it's Ming who picks up the kill. Unfortunately for RNG, but still, it's a big kill with Herald in hand. Wei deciding not to put it down, though, knowing that Beitwan is nearby. So we'll wait a little bit longer for that one.
I mean, you find a kill where FPX was strong. You push them off of Dragon. FPX don't really read the play in terms of trying to cover it, and LWX and Hung were still playing very far forward, so again, a bit of either mistake coming from them or in terms of how they communicated it, the team wasn't in sync. And like you said, they still have Herald. And for RNG, you have a very obvious place where you could drop Herald, which is mid, get that in one charge, and then Shanghaë is going to be all over doing whatever he pleases. RNG will own FPX's jungle.
I'll keep track of that CS lead, folks. Look at it, 30 CS in the mid lane, and Yeah, I'd love to see a Herald there. Good point. As we look at the Predator Thresh, who helps seal the deal on LWX.
Yeah, and LWX had no flash available, did have cleanse, but Gory just went back to mid lane. Sure, Beitron was wrapping around, but I'm not quite sure why LWX and Hung stayed that far forward. We did just set up this play. Herald does come out, and now for RNG, they can start just pivoting in and controlling vision. Again, really neither quadrant. I would expect it to come down towards bot side and alleviating more pressure from their bot lane and finding more kills on Hung and LWX.
Oh, Gala staying here for now. Look at the Robe squad. I love that Ming is now constantly moving around with mobility boots and the Predator Thresh we talked about a little bit before. LWX and Hung are like, can we get out? They're backing away from the turret. They want the wave, but you know what? Sticking around is not going to work out. Beitron on the way, but this is a 4 versus 3 for now. The Corki nowhere nearby, but a TP available as a hook does connect. The scat of the week blown up is Hung. Way underneath the turret, though. This is Retribution here for FPX, but he flashes back in. Ooh. Takes the Dark Passage. Sneaky, sneaky. That was a slick move from the jungler of RNG.
You know, I think the Cataclysm may be a little bit of overkill, but it doesn't matter when you have Brother Ming there to save the day. They pick up a kill. They're going to be able to get some more turret plating off of this as well. And yeah, I think for RNG, you're not really losing much on the map. Sure, you're giving up some minions mid. Looks even potentially like Gory might be able to get a plate off of that, which is all right. But at least RNG are keeping up the pressure.
Nice watching Ming in action, right? And I think we can say the same about both supports here in this series. Hung doesn't have as much tension because, first of all, Hung hasn't won MSI, Hung hasn't won an international event, and Hung hasn't been to an international event.
This is also something we need to say for any new viewers, that Ming was the most robbed player of 2021.
Oh, don't get me started, dude. Gala this, Gala that. Now, Gala's great, but I tell you what, if Ming gets robbed anymore, I'm calling the authorities. I don't care. I'll call real life police and tell them the story, because the problem is that plays like this, right, that we're going to see again, often happen with Ming, one of the most consistent players in the league, Lyric.
Yeah, that, you know, is able to land a death sentence, also having the lantern there. Well, he does have to flash for it. And man, that must have been like a very tricky pixel to click on with where that lantern was, not only next towards minions in the turret, but well, he got the job done.
And it was beautifully done. It was 2-0-2, it's not Thresh, Jarvan, excuse me now. Might be behind in CS, guys, but Lyric, you're saying this in the early game, you know, this is what he's built to do. Have this early game impact. And Bin, actually, it's needlework time, but will he survive? Hang on, true damage flashed away from one more needlework, and it misses. Shanghaı, who burned his own flash, ghost used by Bin. That was a close call. I think Bin's actually backing away from that top side, so he's going to play the fight another day. And Shanghaı, who's going to get free turret plating. So a very good play here from the rookie top laner of FPX that nets him so much more gold.
Yeah, been having to respect Shanghaı, who after the last one missing, but more engages coming out from Ming.
Here we go. All right, 3 versus 3. LWX taking it upon himself to go up to Gala, who flashes away. There's Gravitum. That locks him in place. Is now the target is Shanghaı, who, excuse me, it's only Shanghaı. Lyric, we're only going to have to do this once, maybe twice if FPX and RNG meet in playoffs, but having Lau in the middle is a little bit difficult. As Shanghaı gets a scat of the week, but Gory's over the wall. Gory's over the wall with a huge package. And let me tell you, I haven't seen a package that big, because for RNG, they've got to back away. They know the threat is here. That's a one-item Corki, but he'll still burn them to death. 4 members underneath the turret. And teleport available for Shanghaı. That's the scary part. He now has it unleashed as Dragon spawns.
Also on items, Shanghaı also being such a strong point, having the Luden's 4-stack Dark Seal. Another Scout of the Week hits, could just be burst.
Oh, nice Cataclysm, flash away from LWX, back up off a cooldown. So Mega Death Rocket almost does the job, but there's the package into the middle. Gory doesn't connect it though, really, as the Flake comes through with the box down as well, but FPX are winning the fight. That's the TP advantage. At work, 2 members already dead, way under turret. Sonic Wade with a huge kick not even needed. And Shanghaı, who smashes down onto the bottom lane for FPX to blast them clean.
Yeah, Beitron and LWX just turning on members like Shanghaı and Gala. Wei and Ming were kind of enticed by Gory going in, turn on him, pick up that kill, not realizing that their own carries had already been had been being hit in the meantime do go down. FPX finding another window back into this. They were at about a 2k gold lead before. Now they're up in gold, have a dragon. And we're going to see here how it starts. Wei going with the Cataclysm. LWX Flash is Scatter of the Week doesn't connect, which feels pretty massive. Wild Growth is forced out. And we're going to see here Gory splitting up the team.
Actually, really
Gala and Shanghaı getting pushed into the other members of FPX. And sure, Gory goes down, but again, you're diverting attention, you split up the team, and you set up for FPX to be able to turn this. So, pretty decent package from Gory, and then nice on the other members of FPX to be able to turn and you know, pick up this fight win.
After getting dominated in lane, I mean, that package did its job, right? You know, it was something at first glance I thought, oh, well, it didn't really do much, but you're damn right. It split the team and put FPX in front of RNG right where they wanted them. So for FPX, a big team fight win. They don't have a huge gold lead, but 2 dragons now picked up. RNG with the team that were winning through the mid lane, but Gory starting to catch up, starting to pick up some of those items. The Manamune stacking. I think importantly as well, Lyric, we have a two kill Jace. A 2-kill Jace with Eclipse, with Manamune himself. So Shanghaı in prime position, as that back timing from Shanghaı was in the nick of time.
Yeah, Shanghaı also going to get up here right in time. You know, I feel like for RNG, now you're in a little bit of an awkward place with the advantage that you did have. Ooh, Shanghaı.
Let's see.
Oh, wow.
Cone
They don't commit.
No, they don't. They just get the turret in the end, Lyric. FPX now with a 1k gold lead at 17 minutes in the game.
Yeah, and I feel like a big thing, right, is before a lot of your power was coming from the fact that Shanghaı was so oppressive mid, you know, you could freely walk into either side of river without really having to worry where Beitron was. Now that we have changed lane assignments to where AD carries are back towards mid, soul laners are catching sides, well, we hit on earlier in the day that Syndra not really having that same level of comfortability? That sounds like a word. To walk up and move freely, but might get a solo kill. Bin taken quite low. No, Hysterics. They run away.
Red team's turret has been destroyed.
As it doesn't seem like we can hear Hysterics, or maybe I just can't hear Hysterics. Oh, well, sorry guys, just confirmed we did lose Hysterics. We didn't lose me. I thought you guys did lose me, but you didn't. So here you are, Lyric, chat, Lyric, audience everywhere. As turrets going down for the side of FPX. Luckily for RNG, they do still have elements like the Jinx to be able to fall back on. We know Bin is still pretty massive, but when you're sitting in front of both a Corki and a Felios who are getting to scale for free, you have a Lulu on the opposite side as well. It's going to provide so much in the late game. And FPX sitting with 2 dragons. Yeah, I feel like this one's pretty bad. Hey, Hysterics is back.
I believe I was cut out, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back. I tell you what, I almost missed a solo kill. Holy moly, what have I come back to? What did I miss apart from the fact that Shanghaı, who is destroying everyone, and FPX are looking actually pretty good in this game?
No, you haven't missed anything. I think FPX are actually a decently commanding position. I think when you factor in how team comps interact with the slight 2k gold lead, obviously with the dragons, that for FPX, I mean, you have strong side laning coming in from your Jace, who does have a pretty strong advantage in terms of gold and items. You have a force to play through it with the Lee Sin. If you're on objectives first, you can very easily push them off, barring a scout of the week. You know Jarvan's going to be running into you, which LWX would love to be able to get off his damage. Gory should be able to free hit quite a bit as well. So for RNG, I feel like you're kind of hoping something like Scout of the Week lands on a member who is maybe a bit too far forward, or even one of the frontliners, because FPX aren't all that tanky, and you have enough bursts to just take them out of the fight right away and win out through a 5v4.
And you kind of need to find some of those soon, right? Because we're moving to Soul Point. FPX are about to get the Infernal Soul, or at least, sorry, excuse me, build up towards it. This will be Triple Dragon, and I love what RNG are doing here. They're playing sneaky in the bush. FPX have no vision here. And RNG know it. They're going to be walking up as there's a Cataclysm down. Unleashes hell on the enemy. And it's going to be FPX who pick up the Dragon, but they have to get pretty fast out of here. Gory with the package once again. It's a pick lyric, but for the Dragon, feels like FPX are happy to make that trade.
Yeah, now for RNG, we got to see if they're able to pivot it into something. A lot of ultimates flown, only having minion bins available. If you were able to turn this into some kind of Baron bait, maybe it could be worth, but without it, you're right. I think for the side of FPX, they're still feeling fine. RNG will at least be able to translate it into topside vision control, so maybe they could try and find some kind of pick walking in aggressively, but FPX know exactly where they are.
All right, RNG going to be taking a lot of poke here as well. Lyric, I just realized, you know what's going to be fun? Gory's actually going the AP build. We're actually going to see the Luden's Corki come through.
So it does make sense in the context of this game, right? Because you look at the enemy comp and you're like, okay, our only goal is to outrange them. We are just looking to throw rockets out from an extended range, accelerated shock blast, LWX doing LWX things. You already know that both Gwen and Jarvan are going to have to run into you. So again, you don't feel safe to be in distance to look for those autos had you gone for an more AD carry oriented route. So yeah, Asterix, you've been begging for it all day. It makes sense in this game and we get it.
I'm glad, finally. Let's look at the replay. Which one was this? Of course, in front of the Dragon. They want to take down Shanghaı, who they almost got a bit more.
Yeah, they are able to cement the pick. It still does buy enough time for the other members of... Okay.
Oh, he's dead again. That's big.
Yeah.
That's big. I mean, Lyric, we do have Baron. We have an RNG that are ready to push down mid. We've got a bottom lane turret that they can take as well. So for Royal Never Give Up, gold's going to be even after the Gwen's done down there. And they're getting a bit more map control, and they're constantly finding these picks when the game's almost even.
And all the advantages we've talked about for FPX's comp are only when these two teams are face-to-face in 5v5 team fights, right? RNG somehow, during the replay, managing to get behind Shanghaı, who actually, they just run in. The Predator once again coming in clutch, as well as the Shirelias. So much movement speed, able to bring him down. And for RNG, right, this is the win con back into the game. These picks, having things like the Death Sentence and the Flag and Drag available from the Jarvan to be able to catch off a member quickly and burst them out. So nice to see that RNG do understand their way forward in this game. And for FPX, I think it's more about just grouping up once your waves are in a position like they are right now topside, realizing, hey, someone on RNG has to go answer that. I'm going to send Jace and Corki with the rest of our squad to try and poke them out from a range or, you know, force them into engaging on us.
I like that the waves are just consistently pushing in. You talk about side waves and, you know, for RNG, no one's managing it for now. The Corki grouping up once again. I'm just going to see if Gory has package eyes. Remember, every 4 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. As we see FPX just taking a huge chunk, but honestly, at this point, I'd be scared of Shanghaı and Gory, who now has 2 items, by the way. There's a 3-item Chase, but 2-item Corki with the Luden's Echo is going to start popping. The big one hits Ming, and that's an example of the damage. Shanghaı moving in, though, and that's a great Cataclysm into a choke as well, Lyric. A big play as Bin's going forward. The Gwen wants this, but the rest of RNG can't go any further. Not going to chase FPX.
Oh, Pink's coming out for Baron.
That hurts. They're going into it fast. FPX have the HP advantage, and they've got the right guns, Lyric.
Yep, Chakram's coming out. Eldavix is going to be able to burn this so fast. Bin is here, but Way's only coming from base.
LWX has so many, it's going to go down. FPX are going to get the Baron. They sneak it once again, the team that loves Baron. At 24 minutes, they find yet another hung at half HP, but RNG, head in their hands, like, what can we do here? There's the engage, the kick backwards. They got Shanghaı. He'll go golden, but shortly, he'll be buried in a coffin. RNG find a response kill onto the jungle, but it's 4 versus 4. Forward they go, and Ben needs to carry this as he finally joins on him, but the jungle's dead as well. Shanghaı blasted with the rocket from Gala. Ben's still there in the front line, but LWX very healthy. He has Gravitum, he has Calibrum. Those guns are going to lock someone down and pierce from range. And so RNG disengage, FPX with the Baron in hand, and things could not be closer in this final game.
And now we're going to be looking ahead towards Dragon. It's up in 30 seconds. The members of FPX are coming back out on the map first, so they should be able to get vision control down. RNG will be walking into them. In that last fight, though, we did see, hey, FPX might have more elements of range on their composition, right? They have the Jace, they have things like the Corki, but Jinx with Rapid Fire Cannon is still extremely obnoxious to deal with, and it looked like had that fight extended, maybe Gala would have just been able to tether them, keep them on the edge of his range, and maybe turn it around. So we have to be very careful. Gala now, though, does have no flash. I feel like that will be so important when we're looking at all the summoners. For the side of FPX, Gory still does have his. Wei and Shanghaı have theirs. So keep an eye on Wei using that flash to find an extended range engage.
But Lyric, are they going to be able to walk towards a dragon with this Corki, with this Jace? Ming got to half HP. The poke is so obnoxious, and it's an infernal dragon, so it would add to the poke. RNG want to steal this one away, but they're trying to leash it right now. Get through. Wei needs a steal. He's in, but it's way too late. He's out thanks to the Dark Passage as he turns into a snowman. The only thing that he's going to be chilling about right now is if RNG can get a pick, but they can't. And FPX now with an Infernal Soul, a Baron buff as well, Lyric. Poke away, and RNG will not be able to stay.
Yeah, RNG got onto the map first. They had the setup there. They're able to utilize that poke with the vision disadvantage that RNG does have. RNG, though, can't ignore that dragon and just wait the scale like FPX did try to do last game, right? RNG know that it will be harder the longer this game goes on. So we see that Wei had to try and go for the steal, but man, FPX now just have so much pressure on the map. Again, for RNG, the one place they don't want to be is standing right in front of all the champions of FPX, but FPX's siege potential is so strong, RNG cannot ignore this.
Look at this, TP in the back. Lyric. This is going to be a massive flank from Bin. This is where RNG hold the line, stand their ground, and they've been caught. LWX going to be the target in the back line. Wei goes in, sacrifices himself. A beautiful flank from RNG. That'll turn the play. No objectives are up and available, but they want a little bit more of the pie. 3 members dead in an instant, and that's what you call fighting back in the heat of the moment.
Yeah, great TP coming out from Bin. Remember that FPX just pivoted to that side of the map after pushing in mid, so they didn't actually sweep any of RNG's wards or get any of their own control down. I think Shanghaı, if I didn't see mistakenly, also hit a really nice scout of the week to set that initial kill up on Hung. And without the bot lane there, I mean, FPX just don't have enough juice to, you know, try and turn the play.
Everybody got to have juice, you know. 3 item on the Syndra as well. I'm just going to keep track of items at this point, Lyric, because I'm waiting for the next objectives to come up, but that was a really nice flank. It stopped the Baron play, and we'll look at how it started again.
Yeah, Ming also going with the Predator, bringing in Wei. We see Bin coming from behind. Like, everything just lining up so well. Beichuan off to the side, and Beichuan's even the only, like, pseudo-tank that the side of FPX does have. So if they're easily able to traverse him, if they're able to take out the Lulu right away, there's just no real self-healer or defense mechanisms coming in for FPX's comp.
Where are they going? FPX maybe trying to run away, but Ming's been caught. Had such good engages, but now that leaves Bin out to dry. 4 members of FPX are onto him as the Sonic Wave connects once again. He's got no flash, but he's got the kick available into the ward jump, but it's too far over the wall. Beichuan for the second try. Remember, Dragon's Rage will do it all, but Sonic Wave times out. Wei absorbs the damage as FPX are now trying to run it forward. The Infernal Soul is absolutely slaughtering them. And Bin's trying to kite away. Gala's behind him, and he can't afford to let his AD carry get hit. As Bin absorbs the damage once again. Immune. Inhibitor's going to be the cost here, Lyric. That's Ming dropping down. And it's a minute 30 before the Baron. It's 3 minutes before the Elder. All that jungle camp's going to go. And for FPX, they still remain in control despite the great play from RNG. Looking to take out their first series of the LPL. Both these teams, I mean, this is what we want out of high caliber teams. Saucy action. You talked about juice. I love pineapple juice. And honestly, this feels like a very cold pineapple juice on a hot summer's day.
You know, I'll be honest, not a huge fan of the
I actually prefer orange. I don't know why I said that.
I was going to say you get something like in there like peach. Maybe I can agree this is like a nice glass of peach juice, but hysterics, I don't care about the juice right now because FPX clearly have the juice themselves. Baron gonna come up soon. I feel like that's what we need to be keeping our eyes on now. Taking a look at what items we have on the Rift, we have double Zhonya's coming out from the side of RNG, both Bin and Shanghaı, so potentially able to buy time for another rotation of cooldowns to be able to come out. We also know FPX, their damage is more favored towards AD with both Aphelios and Jace coming out, but still, the problem doesn't really feel like lack of damage coming out from the side of RNG, right? It's really coming down to formation and the fact that FPX are able to layer a lot of this damage before members of RNG can even get close.
Look at that guy with the hammer. Pretty scary. Has arcane buff, and honestly, 3.5 items to this chase continues to be a fact I have to remember. Level 15 on him as well. Got to pay that respect for RNG. Hey, Lyric, objectives again. Baron's now live, 1:30 until we get towards the Elder. I want to point out that the Corki, not important, because Shanghaı's in a bit of trouble. Flay down, box down as well. Death Sentence doesn't connect. You've got to kill him. You have to kill Shanghaı because pings are going down from FPX. They're going to go to the Baron while you chase down the man with a big cannon. Good shutdown, but get towards the Purple Worm.
I mean, sadly for the side of FPX, so they were coming off resets when Shanghaı got caught in the side lane.
True.
They weren't just able to be like, hey, they're getting on top of our top laner, let's go straight to the Baron.
Double
But it
TP.
might not matter just because, once again, LWX having the chakrams coming out, they just burn it so fast.
But they're looking for Hung in the back end. They don't care about the Baron if they can get the kills, but Ming's obliterated immediately. Around Gala must go as LWX has his chakram still there, but Bin's on the flank. Look at how diverted the fight is. Bates won the next target, but the blowing upness continues from Gory. Holy moly. This is why Corki is absolutely ridiculous with the explosive build.
And for FPX coming into a new split with a new roster where on paper, this isn't a roster that people would expect to succeed, especially up against a team like RNG. Once again showing from their Demacia performance, this is a team you have to respect.
Dude, we criticized Gory. We said, okay, well, he's not going to be the focus of this roster. One play's all it takes for FPX to take the series against Royal Never Give Up and get their first win of the LPL 2022 Spring Split.
Yeah, FPX feeling good. Again, theoretically, not even their starting roster. You would expect Clid to come in and potentially be the starting jungler, but Beitron showing up, they're able to get the job done. I think Beitron did have a pretty solid game, especially in the mid game with a lot of the kicks that he was able to land. Like you said, Gory, I mean, had that one nice ultimate that we did initially miss in that team fight, splitting up the members of RNG for FPX to be able to take the fight. And we got to a point where, I mean, you're just staring at Aphelios, Lulu, Corki, Jace on the opposite side of you as champions like Jarvan, like Gwen that need to run in that are going to take a lot of abuse. Even champions like Syndra that where your range isn't absolutely massive. You really only have the scatter of the week.
Lyric, I'm surprised. I'm surprised because from game one all the way to now, I didn't expect FPX to be that close, let alone win the series. For RNG, you look at the roster on paper and you go, man, that's a top tier roster. But for FPX to take them apart, to be so close, even in the second game where RNG managed to pick up a win, this is saying a lot about the roster. You know, we started the day talking about LWX and Hung. And I think we can still talk about their bottom lane, but other members came forward like Shanghaı, who like